There are people who believe in God. They pray, they trust. They try to do things well, and even so, their mind does not rest. They think about the future all the time. They review scenarios that don't exist yet. They anticipate problems that haven't arrived yet. They get mentally tired without having done anything physically. And then a silent guilt appears. If I have faith, why do I feel this way? If I trust in God, why won't my mind be quiet? If I pray, why do I still feel anxious? This video is not to judge you, nor is it to tell you that you are failing spiritually, and much less to reduce something so profound to an empty religious phrase. This video is about understanding, because there is something that almost no one explains, and when it is not explained, the person not only suffers, they also blame themselves for suffering. Anxiety doesn't always arise from a lack of faith. In many cases, it comes from an excess of control. Controlling times, controlling results, controlling decisions, controlling what others think, controlling what could go wrong. Not because you don't trust God, but because your mind learned to survive by anticipating. And that changes everything. There are people who are not weak. They are responsible, they are committed, they are conscious, and precisely because of that, their mind doesn't easily switch off. Because when you are someone who always had to think, foresee, sustain, solve, your mind doesn't know how to rest on its own. Not because it doesn't want to, but because it hasn't learned how to let go without feeling that everything will fall apart. And here appears one of the most dangerous confusions within spiritual and emotional life, believing that feeling anxious means not trusting God, when in reality, many times it means that you are trying to carry today what you are not supposed to carry today. The Bible never presents faith as absolute control of the future. It never presents faith as the ability to anticipate everything. It never presents faith as the absence of thoughts. Faith in the Bible appears as daily surrender. There are people who believe in God. They pray, they trust. They try to do things well, and yet their mind never rests. They think about the future all the time. They review scenarios that don't exist yet. They anticipate problems that haven't arrived. They get mentally exhausted without having done anything physically. And then a silent guilt appears. If I have faith, why do I feel this way? If I trust in God, why won't my mind be quiet? If I pray, why do I still feel anxious? This video is not to judge you, nor is it to tell you that you are failing spiritually, and much less to reduce something so profound to an empty religious phrase. This video is about understanding, because there's something almost no one explains, and when it's not explained, the person not only suffers, they also blame themselves for suffering. Anxiety does not always arise from a lack of faith. In many cases, it arises from an excess of control. Controlling timelines, controlling results, controlling decisions, controlling what others think, controlling what can go wrong. Not because you don't trust God, but because your mind learned to survive by anticipating. And that changes everything. There are people who are not weak. They are responsible, they are committed, they are conscious. And precisely because of that, their mind doesn't easily shut down. Because when you are someone who always had to think, foresee, sustain, resolve, your mind doesn't know how to rest on its own. Not because it doesn't want to, but because it hasn't learned how to let go without feeling like everything will fall apart. And here appears one of the most dangerous confusions within spiritual and emotional life, believing that feeling anxious means not trusting God, when in reality, many times it means that you are trying to carry today what you are not meant to carry today. The Bible never presents faith as absolute control of the future. It never presents faith as the ability to anticipate everything. It never presents faith as the absence of thoughts. Faith in the Bible appears as daily surrender, but almost no one explains that calmly. And when it's not explained, the person starts to fight with themselves, fighting with their thoughts, fighting with their emotions, fighting with their own mind. And that's when anxiety grows. Because anxiety isn't just fear. Anxiety is a mind that doesn't know where to lean for support. A mind that tries to hold on to the future because it doesn't know how to let go without feeling irresponsible. A mind that confuses confidence with passivity. A mind that confuses control with security. And if you are listening to this and feel something stirring inside, it's not a coincidence. Because this message is not for everyone. It's for people who are tired of hearing that they just have to trust more, when in reality, what they need is internal order. This video will not promise that anxiety disappears overnight. It will not tell you that everything is solved with a quick prayer. And it will not minimize what you feel. Today, we are going to do something much more important. We are going to name what is happening to you so you can stop fighting with yourself and start to understand yourself. Because when you understand what is happening inside you, the mind doesn't shut down, but it stops attacking you. And from there, everything changes. To understand anxiety, we first need to do something almost no one does. Separate what we feel from what we believe it means. Because many people feel anxious, but they misinterpret its origin. They believe that anxiety is just fear. They believe that anxiety is weakness. They believe that anxiety is a lack of faith. And that mistaken interpretation is what causes the most harm. Anxiety in its deepest form is not fear of the present. It is an excess of future within the mind. It is mentally living in scenarios that do not yet exist. It is rehearsing conversations that have not yet happened. It is preparing the heart for pains that may never come. The anxious mind does not rest because it is always ahead of itself. And it doesn't do it out of malice. It does it for protection. Here is something very important you need to understand. Anxiety is a survival strategy that became exaggerated. At some point in your life, anticipating was necessary. Thinking a lot helped you. Foreseeing problems protected you. Being attentive saved you from errors, disappointments, or losses. But what was useful at one stage becomes heavy when it transforms into a way of life. The anxious mind doesn't know how to live in the present because it learned that letting down its guard hurts. And when that mind enters spiritual life, a dangerous confusion appears. Because faith speaks of trust, but the mind learned to control. So the person believes in God, but still tries to guarantee results. Prays, but continues to anticipate scenarios, believes, but cannot rest. And there the internal conflict is born. It is not a conflict with God. It is a conflict within the mind. The Bible never presented faith as an absence of thought. It never presented faith as a disconnection from reality. It never presented faith as emotional irresponsibility. On the contrary, biblical faith is deeply conscious of the present. That is why Jesus said something so simple and so difficult to live. Do not worry about tomorrow. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Jesus was not denying the existence of problems. He was not saying that the future does not matter. He was teaching a mental hierarchy. The problem of the anxious mind is not thinking about the future. It is living in it. It is trying to solve today what belongs to tomorrow. It is carrying decisions that have not yet arrived. It is suffering for scenarios that do not yet exist. And here something key appears. Anxiety does not arise because you don't trust God. It arises because your mind doesn't know when to let go. We confuse responsibility with control. We confuse faith with certainty. We confuse trusting with guaranteeing, and that gets tiring. It's tiring because the future was not designed to be held by the human mind. It was designed to be lived step by step. When you try to hold everything at once, the mind gets overloaded. And when the mind gets overloaded, the body responds. Tension appears, mental exhaustion, difficulty sleeping, the feeling of always being alert. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you're trying to live in a place where the soul was not made to dwell. Anxiety is not your enemy. It is a signal that you are carrying more than what is currently due to you. A signal that you are trying to anticipate so as not to suffer. A signal that your mind learned to protect you, but did not learn to rest. And understanding this is fundamental, because as long as you keep believing that anxiety is a spiritual failure, you will keep fighting with yourself. But when you understand that anxiety is a mind without temporal hierarchy, something begins to order itself within, not because the problem disappears, but because now you know where it is. And when you know where the problem is, it no longer attacks you in silence. There is a silent belief that many people carry without realizing it. They don't always say it out loud, but they feel it inside. The belief is this: if I truly trust God, I shouldn't feel anxious. And that idea, although it may seem spiritual, becomes an emotional trap. Because when anxiety appears, instead of understanding what is happening within the mind, the person begins to judge themselves. They blame themselves, they correct themselves, they demand from themselves. They don't fight against anxiety. They fight against themselves. Faith then ceases to be a refuge and becomes a pressure. But the Bible never taught that trusting means not feeling. It never taught that faith eliminates the human process. It never taught that a sensitive mind is a weak mind. What it taught was something much more honest, that human beings feel, fear, doubt, and yet can still trust. The problem is not feeling anxious. The problem is misinterpreting it. When anxiety appears, many people think they should pray harder, believe more, strive more, resist more. And without realizing it, they transform faith into spiritual control. They want to control thoughts, control emotions, control the future in the name of faith. But faith was not designed to control the mind. It was designed to accompany it. When you try to use faith as a tool to shut down what you feel, anxiety intensifies. Because what is repressed is not ordered, it is only hidden. And what is hidden always returns with more force. Anxiety grows when it is not allowed to be understood, when it is treated as an enemy, when it is seen as a spiritual failure. But when anxiety is seen as a signal, something changes. A signal that you are trying to hold too much. A signal that you are carrying responsibilities that are not yours now. A signal that your mind learned to live in constant alert. Faith does not eliminate these signals, it orders them. And as long as they are not ordered, the person lives divided, believes with the heart, but struggles with the mind. That division is more tiring than any external problem. And here is the truth that sets free. God does not ask you to control the future. He asks you to trust Him within the present. When you understand this, anxiety ceases to be a spiritual enemy and becomes a call to reorder your way of living time. And that understanding is the beginning of rest. There is something that deeply exhausts a person, and it is almost never spoken of clearly: internal division. On the outside, the person believes, trusts, prays, keeps going. But on the inside, the mind doesn't stop, thinks, reviews, anticipates, worries. And that distance between what the heart believes and what the mind does creates a silent exhaustion. It's not physical exhaustion, it's an exhaustion of the soul. The person begins to live as if they are always indebted to themselves. They feel they should be better, calmer, more trusting, stronger. And the more they demand of themselves, the less they rest. Because faith, when lived as an obligation, ceases to be a refuge. It transforms into a burden. Jesus never proposed a faith that would violate the mind. He never proposed a faith that would ignore the human process. He never asked people to feign peace when they were in a storm inside. What he proposed was integration, that the heart, mind, and life walk at the same rhythm. That's why when he spoke of time, he spoke with such precision. He didn't say tomorrow doesn't exist. He said it doesn't belong to today. Anxiety appears when we try to live in two times simultaneously. The body is here, but the mind is far ahead. And living ahead generates wear and tear, not preparation. When faith and mind don't walk together, the person lives in constant conflict. They believe they should trust more. They think they should feel less. And in that internal struggle, peace is lost. True faith does not demand immediate inner silence. It demands inner honesty. Honesty to recognize that something weighs heavily. Honesty to accept that not everything is clear. Honesty to live the process without condemning oneself. When the mind learns that it doesn't need to feign calm to be accepted by God, something softens inside. Anxiety doesn't disappear suddenly, but it stops dominating. Because now the person no longer fights against what they feel. They learn to walk with it, without guilt, without pressure, without masks. And that is a silent turning point. It doesn't change the external world, but it changes the way you traverse it. Behind every excessive need for control, there is always an unheeded fear. It's not the superficial fear. It's not the obvious fear. It is a silent, deep fear, often unconscious. The fear of making mistakes. The fear of losing something important. The fear of disappointing. The fear of not being enough. That fear doesn't scream, it whispers. And precisely because of that, it directs more than we imagine. When a person tries to control everything, they don't do it because they trust themselves too much. They do it because they fear what might happen if something goes wrong. Controlling becomes a form of emotional protection. If I think of everything beforehand, I won't make mistakes. If I anticipate every scenario, I won't suffer. If I have everything under control, nothing surprises me. But life doesn't work that way. Life always surprises, it always changes. It always breaks some plan. And when that happens, the controlling mind doesn't feel protected. It feels guilty. I should have thought more. I should have foreseen this. I failed. Then control increases, and with it, anxiety. Here is a difficult truth to accept, but profoundly liberating. Control does not eliminate fear. It only keeps it active. Because fear doesn't need more thought, it needs meaning. When fear doesn't find meaning, it disguises itself as responsibility. It disguises itself as foresight. It disguises itself as maturity, but it's still fear. Faith does not eliminate fear, it goes through it. And it goes through it not with control, but with progressive trust. Trust that does not demand total certainties. Trust that does not ask for absolute guarantees. Trust that is built step by step. Fear loses strength when it stops deciding alone, when it stops governing actions, when it is recognized but not obeyed. And something important happens here. The person who stops controlling everything does not become irresponsible. They become present. They begin to live today with more attention. They begin to decide with more clarity. They begin to rest without feeling guilty. Because now they understand that making mistakes is not the end. Losing is not collapse, and disappointing does not define their worth. And when that fear stops commanding, the mind begins to relax. Not because life is easier, but because you no longer need to carry it alone. The mind does not rest when everything is resolved. It rests when it stops trying to solve everything at the same time. That's a point almost no one understands. Many people expect peace to come when problems disappear. But peace is not born from the absence of problems. It is born from internal order in the face of them. When control begins to diminish, an immediate silence does not occur. Something more subtle happens. The mind stops racing. It no longer needs to review everything over and over again. It no longer needs to anticipate every scenario. It no longer needs to be always one step ahead. Not because the future is guaranteed, but because the person understands that not everything depends on them. That understanding does not arrive as a strong emotion. It arrives as a silent relief. The body relaxes first. Breathing changes. Thoughts lose speed. They don't disappear, but they stop pushing each other. The mind begins to distinguish the urgent from the important, the real from the imagined. What can be done today from what belongs to another moment? And when that hierarchy appears, anxiety loses ground, not because fear leaves, but because it no longer directs. Faith at this point ceases to be a mental demand and becomes a place of support, not to extinguish thoughts, but to sustain them without collapsing. The person no longer needs to feign calm, nor do they need to control everything to feel secure. They begin to trust in a more mature way, less intense, more stable. And here, something very important happens. The mind begins to rest even if life continues to move. That is real rest. It is not disconnection. It is not denial. It is presence. Enough presence for today, enough strength for this step, enough clarity for this decision. And when the mind learns that it does not need to carry the entire future to live the present well, something settles inside. Not everything is resolved, but everything becomes lighter. And that lightness does not come from controlling less due to carelessness. It comes from trusting better. There is a silent moment in the process of one who listens to all this carefully. It is not euphoria, it is not immediate relief. It is awareness. The person begins to see themselves. They begin to notice when the mind gets ahead, when thought races unnecessarily, when the body tenses without a present reason. And that act of observing without judging is already a profound change, because for a long time, the anxious mind was not observed. It was obeyed, every thought was followed, every worry was taken as truth, every imagined scenario was lived as real. But when you begin to observe yourself, something gently breaks, the absolute identification with the mind. You are no longer the thought. You are the one who notices it. And that distance is freedom. You begin to perceive what things truly require your energy today, and which only exist as future possibilities. You begin to realize how many times you carry decisions that have not yet arrived. How many times you suffer over dialogues that did not happen. How many times you demand answers that cannot yet exist. Observation brings humility, because it shows you that not everything depends on you. And at the same time, it gives you back power, because it allows you to choose not to follow every thought. This is not about controlling the mind. It is about relating better to it. When you observe yourself honestly, without condemning yourself, you begin to do something new, live with more intention. You no longer react as much, you decide more. You no longer punish yourself for feeling, you listen to yourself. And that internal change is not noisy, but it is stable. It is the kind of change that does not disappear the next day. Because it does not depend on mood, it depends on awareness. At this point, many people realize something important. They do not need answers for everything. They need enough presence for today. And when that is understood, anxiety loses its central place. Not because it disappears, but because it no longer governs. After all we've discussed, there's something that deserves to be very clear. Anxiety doesn't define you. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less spiritual. What it does is show you where you're carrying more than you should. When the mind learns to let go of excessive control, it doesn't lose responsibility. It gains clarity. It begins to distinguish what it can do today from what only generates anticipated exhaustion. And that distinction changes the way you live, not because problems disappear, but because they stop occupying all your inner space. Life still has decisions. It still has uncertainty. It still has difficult moments. But now, you no longer walk with the feeling that you have to hold everything yourself. Faith ceases to be an internal demand and becomes a constant support. Not to silence the mind, but to accompany it as it learns to live with more order. When you understand that you don't need to control the future to move forward, something is released within. It's not euphoria, it's stability. It's the peace of knowing that today is enough, that this step suffices, that this clarity is what you need now. And from there, the path becomes lighter. If this message organized something within you, don't let it be just a momentary reflection. The mind needs continuity, daily direction, gentle reminders that don't pressure but sustain. That's why many people don't need more motivation. They need inner structure, something to accompany them day by day when the noise returns, when the mind races ahead, when control tries to take over again. If you want to continue delving into this path, you will find continuity in the comments. And if this video spoke directly to you, save it. Return to it when you need it. Share it with someone who is silently carrying too much. Because organizing the mind doesn't change everything at once, but it changes the way you go through everything. And that is already transformation.